All right, here we are. Next episode, we're doing Radiant Black. And we took a look at issue 10.
Mhm.
This was, they've already collected the first volume of this as a trade paperback. So we're sort of jumping in, partway into the story with episode 10. But let's start with Ben. What were your thoughts on this one?
So this is one of the ones that I wished I would have jumped back and read everything else, because I did feel pretty lost in the story. Now, as far as a jumping in point being issue 10. That being said, it was super cool. Like, okay, we were talking about in another episode, like originality and stuff in story. Again, not having read the trade paperback just yet, I want to go back and read it, because this seems like the world building was so cool. Like, where are they, in this like electronic world? You can't really tell. The artwork was really gorgeous, as far as all the I don't know, like the colors, and it was just so vibrant. And again, the story, without any context, was still pretty cool, because you were still learning more about the main character and his abilities. He was learning as he's learning about himself too. So that's my first take on it.
Interesting. Paul, what'd you think?
I mean, I've been with the story since the beginning, so I do have that perspective. But I'll tell you, this is probably the most vibrant and complex that the story's been, only because the character, and as we discuss, I'll bring in some of those additional details. But the character who is currently the Radiant Black character is not who it started out to be. This is a different character. And so this character, Marshall, did not seem complex from issues 1 to maybe 7. And then suddenly in issue 8, he became the prominent character. So, Kyle Higgins, the writer, is from my hometown of Lockport in Illinois. So that's where the book is set, not this specific issue. This specific issue is set in the Existence, which we'll talk about. But Kyle Higgins,
Lockport looks pretty cool, man.
Yeah. Move here. We got neon lights and everything. So yeah, it's pretty amazing. The obviously the cover, like you guys said, jumped out, and that's Declan Shalvey, and he's done Moon Knight and some other books for some of the other companies. So he's rather established, but there's not a lot of, I don't think you lose a lot between the cover and the interior art. And if you didn't know that it was two different artists, you might think it's the same. But Marcelo Costa, who I'm not extremely familiar with. I have seen some of his art, but this is the first time he's been the prominent artist on a book. And he and Kyle have really put together something really, really outstanding here. And Becca Carey is the letterer. So Ben, if that's something that jumped out to you, obviously there's a lot going on, a lot of sound effects that you have to interpret. And I think that's one of the hardest things. I think Fwam and Pow and Zap and Zoc are kind of overused and rather juvenile, but when you're trying to mimic these cosmic sounds, like what does it sound like in space when a laser shoots across, what does that sound like? I think they've kind of really focused in on it. So I'm really happy with the way the story's gone. It didn't go at all the way I thought it was going to go. And of course I love the art and the colors. So for me, this has been a really fun ride so far.
Nice. What'd you think, Mike?
Going to echo the previous comments for sure from our fellow panelists. It was an amazing book. It was the colors were eye-popping, the layouts, some of the lettering styles. I think there was a circular motion in the book that was captured, and you had to actually turn the book to just the originality of things like that is fantastic, because you think we've had comics for a long time now, and to come out with some of these original ideas, and just again when you're working in that two-dimensional space, and to make it pop and to make those colors just every time you turn the page, you're like, holy cow, this is beautiful. And the layouts and the story and everything, again, just reading the single issue, there are definitely questions that I had it draws you in. It wants you to go find the answers to those questions, like, well, where did this power come from, and how are these, how is this relationship working? And so it really just draws you in. As a fantastic book at a high level. I think we're going to delve a little bit deeper in the details, but overall, just a great book.
Yeah, the big question, what is the existence, right?
Right. Well,
Multi-tiered question, multi-tiered answer, I'm sure.
yeah. Well, I absolutely love the artwork. For me, this is just right up my alley as far as it's on that cusp of like traditional comic book artwork, where it's got the thick black lines and bright, bold colors. The thing that for me that stood out was as they continue down their journey, the artwork style changed to go along with it, which I thought was just really unique and really well done. You start out with this more traditional heavy black line artwork, and then it went to almost the opposite, where it was a solid color with the white lines. And then, just like you had mentioned, Mike, that really interesting center panel where you had to rotate the comic book, which I had not seen before, which was I think an interesting, and I hope done on purpose by the artist to draw you physically into the story, where you had to physically be part of the journey. So yeah, I loved all of that. Now, as far as story goes, I'm probably going to be a little harder on the story, because I for a long part, I did not know what was going on, and they kept talking about the existence, and I have no frame of reference. So I was more frustrated than like, tell me what this is already. And they kept saying that line of dialogue over and over again, and it became frustrating for me. I almost wish at this point, if you've already released a trade paperback, I would have hoped that for new readers, there would have been a section at the beginning of the book that was like previously. And I've seen them, they've done that in comics a bunch, where just, give me just a couple of sentences that gives me up to speed as to what's going on. So that was a little frustrating for me, but I did enjoy the unique use of the characterization within the lettering. And I felt like as I was reading it, they were using that to mask some curse words, essentially, because I felt like, and maybe that was just me reading into it. Like they've done that on some talk shows where like inappropriate bleeping or whatever, with add a bleep in when it's not really a curse word, but it makes it sound like it's a curse word. So yeah. But I was intrigued for sure. And I'd be curious to hear more about, since you've been with it since the beginning, Paul, and now that you mentioned this fact that this isn't the same Radiant Black as the story started with. It's from you briefly telling me that, it almost sounds like a Doctor Who kind of a thing, where there's a different doctor. So I don't know if you could talk a little bit more about that.
Yeah, absolutely. So the book started a little over a year ago, and I actually happened upon it on issue 2. The cover caught my eye, and I mentioned something to the guy at the comic shop, and he said, "Oh yeah, you need to pick that up. Lockport's in it, the hometown." And I said, "Lockport's in it." So I started flipping through, and sure enough, the character is living in Lockport, and I'm like, "Oh, okay, well this will be fun." Flip, 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 flip. Oh, number one left. Let me grab that. So I take 1 and 2 home, and I read that, and I was hooked. So here's the basic premise. It started out with a character named Nathan. He was the first main character. He starts out in California, Los Angeles area, trying to be a writer, not doing very well, credit card debt up to here, having a rough go of it, losing his apartment, that kind of thing. Finally packs up, says, "This isn't working. Mom, Dad, can I come home?" "Sure, you can come home." He comes home, and then it says Lockport, Illinois, and he's moving back into his parents' house in his old room. Now, this is like a mid-20s, late 20s guy, so he's not feeling great. So immediately, his friends find out, everybody finds out Nathan's back in town. They touch base with him, including his old friend Marshall, who is kind of like that one friend you had that you're like, if we're gonna get locked up tonight, it's gonna be because of this guy. Marshall's that guy. And so Nathan and Marshall go out on the town in lovely downtown Lockport, and they hit a couple of the bars. Marshall gets a little tanked up. Nathan's drinking, but not too bad. And not far actually from, in the downtown area, there's a set of commuter railroad tracks that run through town. And so they actually stumble upon, and the art is good enough. You can actually tell that the guy is from the area because it looks like it. And they stumble out on the tracks, and Marshall is so drunk he falls down and can't get up off the tracks. Nathan's trying to pull him, and you're thinking, okay, maybe Marshall gets killed here. Nathan just hops off the tracks. What ends up happening is, as he's trying to get Nathan off the tracks, and the train is bearing down, all of a sudden a light opens up on the other side of them, almost like a black hole, like a glowing black hole, which is the radiant black that you see on the front of their uniform. And all of a sudden it just envelops them. And Nathan is all of a sudden in the suit, and he pulls Marshall off of there. And, many obscenities later, as in, you're an effing superhero. Holy effing crap. That's effing crazy. That's Marshall for you. And so everybody's loving it. Not everybody knows that Nathan is the Radiant Black, but Marshall does. So after a few issues of trying to figure out what he can do, what his capabilities are, kind of like Shazam in the movies, Captain Sparkle Fingers and everything. Suddenly a couple other Radiant Blacks show up, or I should say Radiants. One is fully red and another one is blue, and they attack him. And it becomes this, why do you have this power and what are you doing with it, and this and that. And one of them starts to rob a bank, and Marshall tries to stop them. He fails. He's just, he's human. So Nathan gets involved with the Radiant. He's able to stop it. They end up collapsing the whole bank building in downtown Lockport. All kinds of. I actually drove down there. It's fine. They didn't do it. But I had to check.
Thanks for checking. Yeah.
I care. I'm a local guy. I got to support your local business, right? That is fine. So, but I mean, they did a great job. And so then the last several books, and I hate to ruin it on how Marshall ends up with the Radiant. If you guys wanted to get the trade and go back,
yeah. Let's no
so
spoils.
I won't. So I won't. And I appreciate you guys. I wasn't going to throw that out there at all. But yeah, I mean, Nathan was a great character because you could tell he was kind of that Peter Parker type attitude. He was the everyday guy that wanted to help people and felt the responsibility and the weight of the Radiant, didn't know where it came from, didn't know what it wanted from him. It started talking to him the way it's now talking to Marshall. But again, within the last few issues, Marshall has now become the main character and is now, I should say, maybe not wearing the Radiant, but the Radiant is wearing him. And you can see where it's going. And if you guys you've read the issue, so there's a reason Nathan's not part of the Radiant anymore. You just don't know why. So I won't ruin that for you, but it's really great because Marshall was not the character that you would have thought. Think about that guy. Like I said, the guy that, when you were kids, that's the guy that's going to get locked up, and we're going to have to bail that guy out twice this. Now give that guy superpowers. Right.
Okay.
And you're like, oh my God. No.
So you're saying that the Radiant it's almost sounds like the way you're describing it is more like Venom almost, in that you kind of, it wears you.
It's a cosmic entity. And while you are in the Radiant, you have these powers, but it doesn't, there's no manual. It doesn't tell you what you can do. You have no idea until all of a sudden you're flying and you're like, why am I 600 feet in the air? I have no idea what happened. So of course with Nathan, it freaked him out. With Marshall, he's like, this is great. So he's like drunk on the power, but all of a sudden the reality of the Radiant has come to him. It's this cosmic entity from the existence, right, is coming to reclaim the Radiant, and they have no idea, where it's from, what it wants, how it ended up on Earth, any of that. So, for you guys, I know you guys said you were attracted to the writing and the art, and I'll tell you that's great because if you wanted to go back and catch up on the trade, I would really encourage you to do that. Again, it's already in the 10th issue, so won't be long, and probably volume 2 will be out.
How many issues are collected in the first trade?
6.
Okay, so they're doing 6.
Right, right.
So you think by the time they get to number 12, they'll do another collected trade? So 6
That's
more?
what I'm thinking. Yeah.
Okay.
Funny enough, Kyle Higgins, he's done some things in the past, which we can talk about if we wanted on, on a separate show, but he's looking at expanding this universe already.
Oh,
So where they're bringing in other, related characters, he's created more characters to sort of, join the Radiant. And if you guys have seen some of the other issues, even if you look at the covers, you'll see all these different colors. And the first thing I thought of is, and it doesn't do it justice, was Power Rangers, but it's not, definitely not Power Rangers.
Well, I immediately thought of Green Lantern when you
Yeah.
mentioned the different
Absolutely.
colors and all the different colored lanterns.
Ben, you took mine. You took
Ah,
mine.
sorry.
I was gonna say the same thing.
I
Sorry,
didn't want
Mike.
to. I didn't want to say that. I was going to stay away from from the big ones. But yeah, definitely those are both elements of that. And like I said, if you guys have seen the Shazam movie, that's kind of what this reminded me of as they sort of tried to learn their powers. And if you got a friend there going, "Are you bulletproof? Can you fly? Are you fireproof? Maybe we can drown you, and maybe we can blow you up." And you're like, "Shut up, leave me alone," But
Or like Greatest American Hero.
Oh
where
my
you
gosh.
have the instruction
See,
book.
once again, Ben, you stole that.
Oh.
You're always one step ahead.
Sorry.
Your brain works faster than mine. I was going to mention it, but then I was like, oh, if I go way back to Greatest American Hero, that's going to age all of us. But when he shrinks
I don't
down
know what
and
you guys
loses,
are talking about.
yeah, right. When he loses the instruction manual, I was like, oh no. That's like, it sticks in my brain to this day of
Yes.
losing it on a
Believe it or
grain of
not,
sand.
I'm walking on air.
Yes. That's too
to our
funny.
viewers, if you haven't seen Greatest American Hero,
Yes.
go find it streaming. Someone go buy it. It's
William Catt. Fantastic.
VHS. Oh
Yes.
Yes.
When the blonde fro was in,
Oh my
Yes.
gosh. Yeah,
that's
there
where
was
he
talk.
got the power.
Yeah, right. So back in the early 80s, man, that's all you could do is get the few superhero stuff that you could get, just
Oh yeah,
because there wasn't Marvel
remember the-
Universe wasn't around yet.
No.
remember the Nicholas Hammond Spider-Man?
Oh yeah.
Yes.
Yep.
Wow.
So,
He never said a word. Remember when he fought the ninjas and he was karate chopping them? And
yeah. To me, I always think about that. If you ever watch the Eddie Murphy, bit about, you're starving and, somebody gives you a cracker. This is the best cracker I ever had. This is a rich, something special. Like you're starving to death back in that. You're like, Spider-Man, hey, he's got a costume on. This is the best thing I ever seen.
Right.
it's
Right.
Terrible.
the Captain America with the clear shield and
Yes.
the
Oh my gosh.
motorcycle helmet. And oh my God.
Yeah. We've come a long way.
Yes. Yes.
Fancy stuff.
Nice. Well, so
Back on track.
back on track. A slight
Back on our
divergence.
previously
Yeah.
recorded episode.
Yeah, a little nostalgia there. For me, like I said, just dropped into this. I wish I would have known all of that kind of back history, and I don't know how you do that for a new audience. I think that's one of the biggest problems with comic books as a medium. Unlike a novel, unlike a movie, is you have to be able to, every single issue has to be expected that some new viewer, reader is going to jump in and has to get caught up to speed. And I feel like that's, for me anyways, that's where they dropped the ball on this particular issue is I just was so lost story wise and didn't have a real understanding of what was going on. With movies, they can do flashbacks and kind of get you up to speed as to a previous film. I just wish there was just a little paragraph at the beginning that gave, and I don't know, and all that stuff that you just talked about, obviously you wouldn't be able to do all that in a previously, but at least just a
Here's
little
where we
couple
are.
of, yeah, here's where
the-
we are and here's who this
sort of,
person
right.
is.
The story so far, and again, not to, eclipse, these books with the big two, but Marvel now does that. Page 1 is where the story is so far. Just a quick recap.
Yep.
It doesn't give you everything, but sometimes it does sort of bring you back into, oh yeah, last issue. I do remember that. I mean, I don't remember what I read on a story 30 month, 30 days ago. Sometimes I read and I'm 2 pages in and I'm like, oh yeah, so
Right.
I don't remember what I had for breakfast half the time. So,
Yes, exactly.
so that's tough. I get you, Shane. And you know what? This book has not done that with any of the issues. There's been no
Oh.
recap. And so inside the cover, I on the first on the inside cover page, I think there's room for that. And I don't know if they plan to, at the end of 12, 13 issues or whatever, kind of do the new story arc, great jumping on point for new readers type thing that books seem to want to do now. Because I look at this as kind of like a continuing story, but I do think that, like I said, when they break it off and they do have a new storyline, I'm not really sure where they could take it. You've got the two main characters that have really, the two human characters, Nathan and Marshall, that have dominated. And then the rest of the characters have been a couple of the other humans that have been consumed by the Radiant. And then, of course, the characters you guys are meeting in the Existence. So I don't really know where they would go next. I mean, I'm interested to see it. But yeah, it would be hard to recap this, that's for sure, because there's so much goes on. How do you even explain that?
Yeah, I think you bring up an interesting point in particular about comic books as a medium in general, and how you continually bring in new readers. And I feel like that's one of the problems with the big two, Marvel and DC, is their rationale for getting new readers in is, well, let's just kill off the character and we'll start it off as a new, and that's a great jumping on point. That's just, for me, that you're going way too extreme to bring in new readers. All you gotta do is a little paragraph that says previously. You don't have to kill everybody to start a new reader into the book.
But did that happen in our universe, Shane? No, it happened in number 1,832.
Yes.
Right. And like, if you guys don't know, like right now, Peter Parker's in a coma and Ben Reilly is Spider-Man for 5 issues now. And I'm just like, I'm not interested in Ben Reilly. I just, I feel bad. Pete's in a coma. I have a feeling he'll get better.
Maybe.
Or maybe he'll die and then be reborn.
Right.
Yeah, exactly.
Wait, Marvel doesn't have a Lazarus pit. He'll be cloned. Come on, just, it just, sometimes it gets a little silly, but the recap's important. I think you make a good point, Shane. That would be nice for them to do. I know some of the other more independent books don't tend to do that. I will say that one Image book in particular, Spawn, I know McFarlane does do that from time to time. He does do where the story is so far, like a line or two. Obviously Image is independent, so every artist and writer kind of own their stuff and can probably design it the way they want. But yeah, that would help, because this book has really, like I said to you guys, in 10 issues, this book did not start like this. I didn't expect it to be where it is now,
So that's cool.
It's really good. I don't know how much longer I'll keep picking it up. I mean, it keeps being interesting, so they've got me there.
Well, that's good.
Yeah. But I mean, depending on, like I said, I don't know where the story goes from here. I mean, what happens if they find what they're looking for in the Existence? Then what? Does the cosmic entity in the Existence take the Radiant back, and then Marshall and Nathan are just two regular suckers? They got to maybe rob a bank for real now. I don't know.
I think that bodes well for the book, though, for the series, because it's keeping you guessing. You've already been in since issue 1, and you're like, okay, wait, this is different than the first 6-7 issues. And now it's keeping you guessing, like, okay, where's this going to go? And that's what keeps you picking up,
absolutely,
the books each week, each month. It's like, okay, I got to see where the heck this is going.
Right. Yeah. Why would you give this power to this guy, the guy that probably should, least have it? But and then for an issue or two, he kind of did what we all would do, right? Am I going to be a good guy? Am I going to be a little bad? Am I going to help myself out a little bit? And then before you know it, all of a sudden the big cosmic entity comes and goes, puts its big finger in your face, and you're like, oh, it's just got real.
Nice.
Yeah. So it's been interesting. I like it. I think, what it's trying to say, I think on a larger scale is, and I know I've referenced to, Pete and Spidey a couple of times, is kind of the, great power, great responsibility thing is, what if, the guy who should have the power no longer has it. And the guy that, of the two, really should not have it, suddenly has it. And all of a sudden he's put in a situation where he has to, for all intents and purposes, size and age wise, he's a grown up. Mentally, he hasn't had to get there yet. Suddenly he's got to get there in a big hurry, and he's got to make a decision, and he may have to sacrifice himself. And he was not prepared to do that, and suddenly had to get prepared to do that in a big hurry. So what that said, I don't know what Kyle Higgins, I don't know what his motivation is, specifically what he's aiming at, but that's what I got out of it, is somebody who shouldn't have this power now has it and has to make a whole lot of important decisions on a larger scale. So that's what kind of keeps me interested in it, is seeing where it goes from there.
But I think that's always more interesting as a reader, right?
Absolutely.
When you see a character, you're like, you're undeserving of this power, or like, they're the
Mhm.
they're
Their
the
motives
asshole.
are questionable.
Yes, yeah, and now you're watching them grow, because again, the way you describe Nathan, you're like, oh, okay, this is a guy who's like,
Yep.
a reminiscent
right
of
thing.
old school superheroes,
Right.
the Boy Scout, if you will. Yeah, yeah. And so it's always interesting to see that growth. And that was one
Right.
thing, even jumping in the middle in issue 10,
Mhm.
I got from this character from Marshall was, and I kind of saw that that's where it was headed, because especially the whole there's a line that's repeated throughout, there's truth is truth, there's truth in existence, or only
Yes.
truth in existence.
Yes.
And so I'm like, okay, what are they trying to teach him here? What are they? And then I
They
don't want to give
kept pushing
anything,
him. They
yeah,
kept
I don't
pushing
want to
him.
give anything away to
Right.
the other people, but
Sure.
it was really cool. I loved how they pushed him toward that.
Yep.
And so that makes me more it definitely made me interested to see, like, okay, I want to see this next issue now and see
Yeah.
how these realizations from Marshall helped him grow, if at all.
Yeah. Yeah.
Because
But you-
again, sometimes in confronting your demons, if you will, I mean, it could take a character either way, right? So
Yep. Ben, you absolutely expanded on what Paul was saying. I think you're absolutely right. Sometimes that intrigues us more, to see if someone's going to rise to the
Mhm.
occasion. We as a reader get to kind of look at it from that third party, right? Where we take a step back, where we're outside of that relationship and see this person, we're like, make the right choice, make the right choice. Come on,
Yep.
you root them on, but you do. That's part of the hook, right? Is this person truly going to rise to the occasion, and are we then going to see those motives,
Right.
the ethics, the morality, all of that? Is it going to change and be molded before our very eyes? And it does. It hooks you. It's good,
Yep.
great writing. So
Yeah, this guy who's never had to be an adult, he's always been allowed to kind of be, kind of like a layabout, like to use one of our favorite lines, he's a slacker. He's always going to be a slacker. So I'm glad you guys got that reference. Right?
yes.
I got the hairline for Strickland. So,
Strickland,
But,
nice.
but that's the thing. Marshall's that guy that they talk about. They're like, oh yeah, the guy that was the jock in high school who's flipping burgers and then gets fired doing that. It's like, dude, you couldn't even make it at Burger King. And all of a sudden he's got like the most dominant power in the universe, and you're like, this should end well. So yeah, so Mike, I'm glad you mentioned that too, because I thought the same thing. As I was watching his conversation and as he was being escorted in the existence, I kept saying, for us, I guess it seemed obvious, but he had to make the journey. And I was like, just say it. You know what they want you to say. It's almost like if you have kids, you're like, I'm trying to lead you there. I'm not gonna, you're like,
Right.
get there faster, please. We've only got 2 pages left.
You've only got 2 pages.
Turning the page. We're almost out of circles. It's like, so I'm sure you guys saw by the end of the issue, he sort of came to a realization. And that's why I say I'm kind of interested to see where it goes next, because it's taken a few issues, but he's taken those steps. And now where does it go? It's like, I'm sure Higgins has got something planned. Otherwise, he wouldn't be doing what he's doing. But so I'm just really interested to see where it goes.
Yeah.
Very cool. Well, let's go down and do some reviews. We'll do the story, then the art, and then the overall. So, Paul, since you got a historical perspective on this one, let's start with you.
Yeah, I mean, I'm gonna obviously, recency bias. And of course, again, I've got the perspective of having all 10 issues. I think if this was a movie, I would go see it tomorrow. If this was a novel or a graphic novel, I would have picked it up. I'm glad I was able to get the first 2 issues right away. So out of the gate, I got really quickly immersed in it. For the art, it's been consistent all the way through. The writing has been consistent. I'm a fan of Kyle Higgins, not just because he's a local guy. I didn't know he was local years ago. He wrote another book called Hadrian's Wall, which we can talk about it offline or at another time. But I'm familiar with his writing and I like his style. I like his themes. So for the writing, I'm going to give it a 5. For the art, I'm going to give it a 5. And for overall, I'm going to knock it out of the park with a 5. I love this book.
Very cool. Mike, what'd you think?
Well, I think from the very beginning, I'm a single issue reader at this point with number 10. It definitely, I had questions and I would love to go back and kind of figure out more context and figure out some of the answers to those questions. So I was going to give it a 4. I'm going to give it, because it's about Paul's hometown, I'll give it a courtesy half star. So I'll give it 4.5 for the story. And the artwork was phenomenal. Just the vibrant colors. And it reminded me of for those of you that have seen some of the What If on Disney, just the colors and those existence and just all of that. So the artwork, I'm giving a 5 for sure. It is a phenomenal. So overall, I'll give it a 4.5. It is a fantastic book. And like I said, it hooked me to the point where, yes, I need to go read more and find out more. So grabbed me with both hands. Yep.
All right, Ben.
All right, man. So this was hard for me because I loved the book. I love, again, it's just like Mike, a single issue. I jumped in at number 10. But it's it's funny. That's why I love having these conversations with y'all, because it does give me some new perspective and helps out. So that being said, with the story, I think I'm going to go with like a 3.5. And this is why, as to Shane's point, I do feel like it's easier for books of this depth or it's better for books of this depth to like give you a little like, okay, the page 1 or just the inside, this is the story so far. And I feel like jumping in and being a little lost, it was hard, but I loved what they were doing. Again, I always look also at originality. The story is really cool and original. There are, of course, it's hard. It's a comic book, so there are going to be some tropes here and there. That's why I give it a 3.5. The artwork, though, did blow me away. It was gorgeous. And Shane said earlier, went from like bright neon lights, and then all of a sudden it was like silhouettes and the white lines and all that. Really beautiful artwork. So I'll go 4.5 there. So I guess that's balance out. That's a 4. 4 for me.
Great stuff.
All right. Well, I'm a little harder on things, and I apologize, Paul. I know this is hometown. I don't want.
I don't even get the courtesy half.
Yeah, I can't do the courtesy half on this one, buddy. I being an Illinois native myself, I love the Lockport feel, but for me, because I'm only going to base it on the fact that I'm jumping in at issue 10, and I can't, given all the history that you gave it, I can't bring that to this review of just a single issue. But for me, it was a 2 out of 5 for the story, just because. I didn't know where I was. But now that I'm hearing all this, now I'm intrigued. Next time I go to Comic-Con, I'm going to pick up the trade and get up on it. So for sure. But the artwork, 5 out of 5, just blown away. It's everything I love about comic book artwork. And just like, the alternating styles and the physical interaction, all of that was just off the charts. Amazing. So yeah, I loved all of that. So
it's like candy for the eyes, isn't it?
It really is. Yeah.
I love it. It pops.
It's what I love most about comic books is, just that I love artwork. So, so it's going to go right down the middle, probably like a 3.5 for the whole thing. But that, with that said, maybe
single issue.
Yeah,
that's a fair assessment, and I'm with you guys. Without the benefit of knowing the whole story, if I just jumped in on number 10, I'd be confused as well. I mean, I know the story, and I still, like I do every issue, read it twice. just because I wanted to do this again.
There you go.
But I turned it the other way. Look, he's walking backward up the stairs.
MC
Whole new
Escher style.
perspective.
Yeah.
That's right.
Nice. Well, very cool. Well, this was a great episode. Really great suggestion again, Paul. I appreciate it. So make sure to go out to your local comic book shop, pick this one up. Support your local comic shops. They need your help. So we're out here. We're looking out for little guy. So we'll see you on the next episode. Well, thanks for watching. Hope you enjoyed it. Make sure to click that subscribe button and the thumbs up. That really helps us a lot on the YouTube algorithm. And we'll keep bringing you more reviews for independent artists. And we'll see you on the next time.